The crystalline ships of the Galactic Council sparkled against Earth's atmosphere as they descended through the clouds. Inside the United Nations Emergency Chamber in Geneva, Commander Sarah Chen stood with perfect military posture, her dark eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching vessels. The room hummed with tension as world leaders and military commanders watched in silence. "They're earlier than expected," General Santos muttered beside her. "The diplomatic team isn't ready." Sarah kept her voice steady. "Maybe that's the point. They want us off balance." The alien ships, 12 in total, took formation above major cities across the globe. Their design was organic, almost liquid in appearance, with surfaces that seemed to flow like mercury in the sunlight. High above New York, Delhi, Beijing, and other metropolitan centers, they waited. The first transmission came through with a burst of static. The holographic display flickered, and a figure materialized. Tall, ethereal, with iridescent scales and multiple sets of eyes arranged in geometric patterns. The alien spoke, its words translated by the recently completed First Contact Protocol system. "Greetings, children of Earth. I am High Counselor Vexterra of the Galactic Council. We have come to welcome you into the greater community of spacefaring races." Sarah noticed the patronizing tone immediately. Children. Of course. To them, humanity must seem like infants, barely having reached for the stars. The UN Secretary-General stepped forward. "We are honored by your arrival, High Counselor. Earth welcomes peaceful contact with—" "Fascinating," Vexterra interrupted, their head tilting at an unsettling angle. "Your quantum signature readings are unexpected. According to our scans, your civilization should be in a pre-industrial phase. Yet here you stand, with primitive but functional technology. Most unusual." Sarah felt her jaw tighten. Primitive. There it was again. But before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. Red warning lights flashed as systems across the globe reported simultaneous anomalies. Sarah's neural implant buzzed with incoming data streams. "Commander," Lieutenant Park's voice cut through the chaos. "The Prometheus Deep Space Probe. It's receiving a response." Sarah's blood ran cold. The Prometheus probe had been humanity's first attempt to reach Alpha Centauri, launched decades ago. It had gone silent shortly after launch, presumed lost to the void. But now, "Display it," she ordered. The holographic feed split, showing a new image that made several officials gasp. The probe had reached its destination after all. But what it found there defied explanation. Massive structures orbited Alpha Centauri's second planet. Structures that bore unmistakably human design patterns. "Impossible," Vexterra whispered, their multiple eyes widening. "Those are ancient Guardian arrays. But they can't be. The architecture is." More alerts flooded in. Deep space telescopes were activating automatically, revealing similar structures throughout nearby star systems. Each bore the same distinctive geometric patterns, the same technological signatures. And each was demonstrably older than any known alien civilization. Sarah stepped forward, her mind racing. "High Counselor, I believe we need to revise the parameters of this discussion. Those aren't just human designs you're seeing. According to these readings, they predate your council by at least 50,000 years." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Vexterra's translucent skin pulsed with patterns that the translation system interpreted as extreme distress. "Impossible," they repeated. "You are children. Newcomers, we came to guide you into the galactic community." "Did you?" Sarah kept her voice level. "Or did you come to reclaim something you thought was lost?" Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, ancient machinery began to stir. In orbit, dormant satellites older than recorded history started to power up. And in the Geneva chamber, the holographic display revealed one last, stunning piece of data. A star map, showing human exploration routes from a time before Earth's last ice age. We weren't newcomers to the galaxy, Sarah realized. We were coming home. The High Counselor's next words came slowly, waited with dawning comprehension. The Seeders, the ones who shaped the early galaxy, who left behind the Guardian arrays. They didn't vanish. You, simply forgot. Sarah met the alien's gaze steadily. It appears, High Counselor, that we have much to discuss, and much to remember. Around the world, more ancient systems were awakening. Humanity's lost legacy was stirring, and with it, questions that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of its own history. The children of Earth, it seemed, were actually its elders, and their long sleep was finally coming to an end. Dr. Marcus Rivera stood at the edge of the underwater excavation site, his deep-sea suit's lights illuminating the impossible structure before him. 3 miles beneath the Pacific Ocean, ancient walls curved upward into darkness, covered in patterns that shouldn't exist at this depth or age. Beside him, the alien archaeologist Zixtol moved with deliberate grace, their environmental suit adapted for their serpentine form. These markings, Zixtol's translated voice came through the comm system. They matched the crystalline data archives we found across 12 star systems. But these are the originals. Marcus touched the wall, feeling the subtle vibration through his gloved hand. They're not just markings. They're active. The whole facility is waking up. Above them, the joint human-alien research vessel, Nautilus, maintained position against the deep ocean currents. In the week since the Galactic Council's arrival and the subsequent revelations about humanity's true history, the world had changed. The discovery of this underwater complex had only been the beginning. Another chamber ahead, Marcus reported, checking his instruments. Energy signatures are stronger here. They moved forward, their lights revealing a vast circular room. As they entered, the walls began to glow with a soft blue luminescence. Patterns that had been dormant for millennia activated in sequences, racing across the surfaces like digital rivers. Incredible, Zixtol whispered. Your people built this before my species had discovered fire. The preservation systems alone are beyond our current technology. Marcus approached a central pillar that rose from floor to ceiling. We didn't just build it. According to the data we've decoded so far, we used these facilities to monitor and guide the development of young civilizations, your people included. The revelation had shaken the galactic community to its core. Humanity hadn't been meant for guidance. They had been the guides, the guardians, the shepherds of countless species taking their first steps toward sentience. Suddenly, the pillar pulsed with light. A holographic display materialized, showing star charts and data streams that made both researchers step back in awe. The information was overwhelming. Detailed records of genetic engineering projects, climate modification initiatives, and careful interventions spanning hundreds of thousands of years. There, Zixtol pointed with one of their appendages. That's my homeworld. These are records of how your people. They paused, emotions causing their translator to crackle. How you helped us survive our first ice age. Modified our genetic structure to adapt. We thought it was natural evolution. Marcus watched as more data streamed past. We didn't just help. We planned it. All of it. The compatible biochemistries between species, the similar psychological patterns that allow for interstellar cooperation, none of it was chance. A new alert caught their attention. In another section of the facility, more systems were activating. They hurried through crystalline corridors that seemed to respond to their presence, lighting the way ahead. The new chamber was smaller but somehow more significant. At its center stood a single pedestal, and on it, a sphere of what appeared to be liquid metal began to rise and take shape. Marcus, Zixtol's voice was urgent. These energy patterns, they're identical to the Guardian arrays we found in deep space. This is a control node. Before Marcus could respond, the sphere projected a message. The language was ancient, but somehow, Marcus understood. Perhaps some part of human DNA still carried the knowledge, waiting to be awakened. Protocol restoration initiated. The message read, Guardian Network reactivation sequence commencing. awaiting authorized response from Cedar Command Structure. Marcus's hands trembled as he reached for his communicator. "Command, this is Dr. Rivera. We found something. Something big. The Guardian Network. It's not just a defense system. It's a nursery, a protected space for developing civilizations, and it's asking for instructions." In orbit, the alien ships that had arrived to guide humanity now hung motionless, their crews watching in stunned silence as more ancient human technologies awakened across the solar system. The children had become the teachers, and the galaxy held its breath to see what lessons they remembered. Zixtal moved closer to the pedestal, their usual scientific detachment cracking. "All this time, we thought we were coming to help you join our civilization." Instead, they turned to Marcus, their multifaceted eyes reflecting the shifting lights. "Instead, we were coming home to our guardians. The question is, what will you do with that responsibility now?" Marcus stared at the swirling sphere, watching as it displayed countless worlds, countless species, all carefully tended by their forgotten guardians. "First," he said quietly, "we need to remember who we were. And then we need to decide who we want to be." The facility hummed around them, ancient systems reaching out across light years to reconnect with their counterparts. Humanity's legacy was awakening, and with it, the weight of a responsibility they had carried once before. The real question was whether they were ready to carry it again. Lieutenant James Cattry watched the holographic display with growing concern as red warning indicators spread across the star map like a viral infection. The Guardian Network was waking up, and not everyone in the galaxy was happy about it. Another incursion detected, his AI assistant reported. "The Nexer Collective is attempting to breach the defenses around the Orion facility." From her position at the central command station of the newly discovered lunar base, Ambassador Vexterra's scales flickered with anxiety. The former High Counselor had chosen to stay as a liaison after the initial contact, a decision that was proving increasingly valuable. "The Nexer were always aggressive," she said, her translator conveying the worry in her tone. "But this is beyond mere territorial ambition. They're afraid." James understood why. In the 3 weeks since the discovery of humanity's true heritage, the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted dramatically. The Guardian arrays weren't just defensive platforms. They were the anchors of a vast network designed to nurture and protect developing civilizations. And now that network was coming back online, responding to protocols written before recorded history. New signal from the Pacific facility. The AI announced. Dr. Rivera reports the activation sequence is accelerating. We have less than 48 hours before the system requires authorized input. James studied the data streaming across his neural interface. The Guardian Network wasn't just asking for instructions. It was demanding them. And if it didn't receive proper authorization from human command structures, its automated protocols would initiate. No one knew exactly what that meant, but given the level of technology involved, the consequences could be catastrophic. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. A sensor operator called out. Nexer signatures confirmed. They're heading for the Jupiter array. "Show me," James ordered. The display shifted, showing a fleet of biomechanical vessels approaching the massive structure that orbited Jupiter's largest moon. The array was one of dozens that had been discovered throughout the solar system, each one a testament to humanity's forgotten technological achievements. "They don't understand what they're dealing with," Vexterra said quietly. "Those arrays, they're not weapons to be seized. They're tools of creation. The Nexer think they can simply claim them, but the technology requires more than mere possession. It requires wisdom." James nodded. The archaeological teams had discovered that the ancient humans hadn't just built advanced technology. They had created systems that responded to specific genetic and psychological markers. Markers that modern humans still carried in their DNA. "Alert from lunar defense," the AI interrupted. "The Nexer fleet is charging weapons." "Lieutenant," Vexterra's voice was urgent. "If they damage that array, the cascading failures cooled." She never finished. The Jupiter array suddenly pulsed with energy, its surface shifting like liquid metal. Before the Nexer ships could fire, a wave of golden light erupted from the structure, washing over their fleet. The effect was instantaneous and bewildering. Instead of destroying the ships, the energy field simply held them, like a parent gently restraining an angry child. By the first stars, Vex Terra whispered, the arrays, they were never meant to destroy. Even their defensive systems are designed to protect. James watched as the Nexer ships hung motionless in space, their weapons and engines neutralized by technology they couldn't begin to comprehend. Send a message to their commander. Explain that we don't want conflict. We just need time to understand our own legacy. But before the message could be sent, alerts blazed across every screen. The Pacific facility had triggered something, a countdown that was spreading through the entire Guardian network. Multiple facilities activating worldwide, the AI reported. Similar activations detected in neighboring star systems. The network is synchronizing. Vexterra's scales paled. It's awakening, truly awakening. Not just individual systems, but the entire network as a single entity. Our legends spoke of this, the day the Guardians would return. James felt the weight of history pressing down on him. Humanity had created this network to shepherd life throughout the galaxy. Now it was asking them to take up that mantle again, to remember not just their power, but their purpose. Get me a direct line to Dr. Rivera, he ordered, and contact every major government on Earth. We have less than 2 days to decide humanity's role in the galaxy, whether we're ready or not. The lunar base hummed with energy as more ancient systems came online. Above them, the stars seemed to wait expectantly for humanity's decision. Would they reclaim their role as guardians, or would they chart a new course? The answer would reshape not just human destiny, but the future of every species in the galaxy. And time was running out. The ancient chamber deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean blazed with holographic displays as Dr. Marcus Rivera and Zixtal worked frantically to decode the final data streams. 24 hours remained before the Guardian network required a response, and the truth they were uncovering was more staggering than anyone had imagined. Look at this, Marcus said, his voice hushed with awe. These stellar nurseries, the nebulae where new stars form, our ancestors didn't just find them. They created them. Zixtal moved closer, their serpentine form graceful even in the bulky environmental suit. Created stars. But that would mean. It means we didn't just guide developing civilizations. Marcus finished. We shaped the very foundations of life itself. These Guardian arrays, they're not just monitoring stations. They're terraforming engines, stellar forges, gravity sculptors. Above them, the Nautilus maintained its vigil over the facility while teams worldwide raced to understand humanity's true heritage. In orbit, ships from a dozen alien civilizations watched and waited, their presence a reminder of how much had changed in so short a time. Marcus's neural interface pinged with an incoming transmission from the lunar base. Lieutenant Cattry's holographic form materialized beside them. "Doctor, please tell me you have answers," James said without preamble. "The Nexer situation is contained for now, but more ships are gathering at the edges of the system. Everyone's watching to see what we do next." Marcus gestured at the data streams surrounding them. "We have answers, James, but they're almost beyond comprehension. Our ancestors, they weren't just an advanced civilization. They were architects of life itself." He manipulated the holographic display, showing star systems, nebulae, and planetary formations. "Look at these patterns. Every life-bearing world we've discovered, every species that's achieved sentience, none of it was random. It was all carefully orchestrated over millions of years." "But why?" James asked. "Why go to such lengths? And why did we forget?" Zixtal suddenly made a sound that their translator couldn't process. There, they pointed to a new data stream. "That's what we've been missing. The catastrophe wasn't an accident. It was a choice. The chamber filled with new images, a massive energy wave approaching the galaxy, something that would have sterilized all life in its path. The ancient humans had detected it coming, had known they couldn't stop it, but they could prepare for it. They knew they didn't have time to save everyone, Marcus said softly. So they did something unprecedented. They seeded hundreds of worlds with life, set up the Guardian network to protect and guide that life. And then, he paused, the weight of the revelation heavy in his voice. They used the last of their energy to deflect the wave, to save the galaxy. The cost was their civilization, Zixtal added. The energy required to alter the wave's path was so massive it affected their own neural patterns. They forgot who they were, what they had built. They became us, modern humans. James was silent for a long moment. So when we started reaching for the stars again, we were triggering failsafes we built into our own DNA, Marcus confirmed. The Guardian network wasn't just waiting for us to return. It was waiting for us to remember why we left. New alerts flashed across their displays. Around the solar system, more arrays were activating, responding to the ancient protocols encoded within them. The countdown continued, inexorable. The network isn't just asking us if we want to reclaim our role, Marcus realized. It's asking if we're ready to understand why we created it in the first place. The responsibility we took on wasn't just to guide other species. It was to ensure life itself had a chance to flourish. Through the neural link, they could see the Nexer ships still held in stasis near Jupiter, their weapons powerless against technology designed not to destroy, but to preserve, to protect, to nurture. Our ancestors sacrificed everything to save life in this galaxy, Marcus said. And now we have to decide. Do we take up that mantle again? Do we become the guardians we once were? The facility hummed around them, ancient machines waiting for an answer. In orbit, ships from a dozen species waited too, watching to see if humanity would remember not just their power, but their purpose. The countdown continued, marking the hours until a decision had to be made. A decision that would determine not just humanity's future, but the future of all life in the galaxy. UN Secretary General Maya Patel stood before the emergency session of the General Assembly, her dark eyes reflecting the holographic displays that filled the chamber. Representatives from every nation on Earth watched in person or through secure links, while delegates from 24 alien species observed from their ships in orbit. The Guardian Network's countdown showed less than 3 hours remaining. "We have confirmed the data from the Pacific facility," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Our ancestors didn't just explore the galaxy. They shepherded it. They sacrificed their own civilization to protect all life from extinction. And now their legacy asks us to choose. Do we reclaim our role as guardians, or do we forge a new path?" In lunar orbit, Lieutenant James Cattry monitored the network's status from the ancient base. The Nexer ships remained in stasis near Jupiter, a reminder of how easily power could turn to fear. Ambassador Vexterra stood beside him, her scales shifting in patterns that reflected the tension of the moment. "The arrays are fully synchronized," James reported through the neural link. "Whatever we decide, the network will respond instantly." From the Pacific facility, Dr. Marcus Rivera and Zixtal had uncovered the final pieces of humanity's story. The holographic feed showed them surrounded by streams of ancient data, the accumulated knowledge of a civilization that had shaped the very fabric of life in the galaxy. "Secretary General," Marcus called, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "There's something else you need to know. The network, it's not just waiting for our command. It's waiting for our understanding." The displays shifted, showing new data streams. The patterns of life throughout the galaxy, the delicate balance of species and civilizations, all carefully tended by their forgotten guardians. But there was more, something in the very structure of the network itself. "Our ancestors didn't build this system to rule," Marcus continued. "They built it to teach, to guide. to protect until others could protect themselves. The countdown isn't just about reclaiming control. It's about choosing whether to continue their work or to help the galaxy stand on its own. Maya turned to the assembled representatives, both human and alien. We stand at a crossroads. We can reactivate the network, resume our role as the galaxy's guardians, or... She paused, looking at the faces before her, faces filled with fear, hope, uncertainty, all the emotions that came with standing on the brink of change. Or we can do what our ancestors truly meant us to do, not to rule, not to control, but to guide. To share what we've learned, to help others grow strong enough to become guardians themselves. The chamber erupted in discussion, voices raised in dozens of languages. But before the debate could intensify, new alerts flashed across every screen. The Guardian network was changing, responding to something deeper than mere commands. The arrays, James called out, his voice urgent. They're transforming. Around the solar system, the ancient structures began to shift, their surfaces flowing like liquid metal. But instead of weapons or shields, they were becoming something else. Interfaces, teaching tools, bridges between civilizations. They're responding to our choice, Vex Terra whispered. Even before we made it formally, they sense our intent. Maya watched as the transformation spread across the galaxy, carried by the network's faster-than-light connections. The countdown hadn't been about reclaiming power. It had been about remembering wisdom. Then let our choice be clear, she said, her voice carrying to every ship, every world, every species watching this moment. We remember who we were, but we choose who we will be. Not distant guardians, but fellow travelers. Not rulers, but teachers. Not controllers of life, but its protectors. The network pulsed with golden light, accepting the choice. Around Jupiter, the Nexer ships were gently released from stasis. In the Pacific facility, new interfaces appeared, offering access to ancient knowledge in ways all species could understand. The network is stabilizing, Marcus reported. It's becoming something new, something we can all use together. Maya nodded, feeling the weight of history settling into something lighter, something shared. Then let this be the legacy we choose to build upon. Not the power to shape galaxies, but the wisdom to help them grow. Not the authority to command, but the responsibility to teach. Above Earth, ships from a dozen species adjusted their positions, no longer watching with fear, but with growing understanding. The children had not become the new masters. They had become the teachers their ancestors had always meant them to be. The Guardian network hummed with new purpose, its ancient technology adapting to serve not one species but all of them. Humanity had remembered not just their power, but their purpose. And in choosing to share rather than rule, they had fulfilled their ancestors' greatest hope. That wisdom would prove stronger than power, and that life in all its forms would learn to flourish together. A new dawn was rising over the galaxy, not of dominion, but of partnership. And in the light of that dawn, all species could grow stronger together.